Well, welcome everyone. Thank you again for taking the time to join us today. I'm going to be covering a couple sections today. First one being origins of steel and quality assurance. Sean, I'm going to ask you to advance the slide. So one of the things that we really push at North American Steel is the transparency of our process. And when we speak of full transparency with respect to our domestic manufacturing, we're referring to knowing the source of the steel, the qualifications and controlling the quality of the manufacturing, and understanding the processes and the impacts to our environment that these processes may have. The global market presents clients with a diverse range of internationally manufactured steel racking. Just the international pipeline that and the world trade has driven standardization of certain pallet sizes and weights. And so there's lots of global solutions for pallet racking available around the world. And with real estate prices increasing dramatically over the past decade, we're seeing a trend of racking structures exceeding heights we've never seen before. 30 years ago, a 25-foot tall racking system was a tall system. Now it's not uncommon that they're exceeding 35, 40 feet, and in some very specialized applications, over 100 feet tall. It makes it that much more important to know exactly what it is you're getting as far as where the steel's coming from, the quality of which it's manufactured, and what standards are being maintained during that manufacturing. So evaluating the quality of a manufactured product is not always perceivable based on appearance. While it may look the same, anybody that's ever heard of a Pinterest fail or followed a recipe that looks great on Instagram, but in reality it tastes like paste, will appreciate this concept of appearance, form versus function. With pallet racking being built on the scale which we're seeing for new warehouses, the global supply chain delays that we're waiting longer for material. We're searching harder for good suppliers of quality steel. And likely at the end of the day, we're paying more for that product. It just increases the importance of understanding the process by which that material is being supplied to you, the operator or the end user. There are some really simple and independent checks that any purchaser or procurement officer of pallet racking can do, and questions that you should be asking before you make a commitment on selecting a vendor. First of all, are they listed as a qualified welding facility? This is actually part of the building code in Canada, that they must be listed as a certified welding facility and achieve a certain level, which is specified in the code. Do they have a complete set of safe practices and procedures for manufacturing that product, for maintaining the product, for installing and repairing the product? Are those resources available to you for engineering and design? And can you see some examples up front? In a lot of cases, when we have long pipelines, if you wait too long to ask, some vendors just cannot provide it. So because it's not something that is typically required by permit checkers or areas of jurisdiction. So purchasing domestic greatly impacts the ongoing flexibility of your system as well. Our racking, just like your business, is considered to grow over time, to change needs, to be presented with challenges, with ongoing market changes, and your system needs to be flexible to accommodate that. So our racking comes with what's called a PSR, or Pre-Start Health and Safety Capacity Rating. And then as our local affiliates across Canada can work with your specific location, we can update those over time to make sure that the racking system that you bought changes and grows with your business. Our engineers are here to support any changes that you need to be made, and we can even modify systems, move systems, or reconfigure those systems to grow with your business. Next page. So steel is not steel. Unfortunately, steel can come in all sorts of compositions and mixes and grades and strengths, and it's really it's impossible to tell by just looking at the steel how strong it is. And so there's lots of tests that we do internally and that our suppliers do to demonstrate that what we are buying is in fact what we're assuming we're using in our calculations to provide you with safe working capacities. Domestic steel mills abide by recommended steel compositions as outlined by the CASIC in Canada and similarly the AISC in the US. And this same standard is recommended for steel mills across the world. And adherence to these standards is voluntary. And the further away you get from these domestic steel centers, not necessarily harder to check, but certainly harder to do something about it after it's arrived. Mill certificates is kind of a little passport that we ask for and we receive with our loads of steel. And it breaks down all the components and the different ingredients, if you will, that make up that steel mix. We have to ask for it up front, and we ask for it consistently. And for large projects, we keep it on file. If you're buying your steel from somewhere else and it's being put in a container and shipped over on a ship, that is a finished product, and getting that same steel certification once that product is manufactured and delivered is impossible. So even though it may not seem like a big deal, small differences in the steel composition can have dramatic effects on how that steel responds, not only during the welding and the forming process, but those small impurities or inclusions in steel can result in brittleness. It can lead to premature cracking or failure upon impact. This picture here is a great example of picking the right steel for the application. It was chosen for its weldability, but it's also ductile enough or pliable enough that if it gets hit, and this one really got hit, it doesn't bring down the entire warehouse like so many YouTube videos would have us believe. A properly designed system that's loaded to its correct capacity using the correct steel built by qualified manufacturing facilities can take some pretty significant hits and still remain standing and allow you the most important thing that you need at a time of an incident, and that is time. Time for your associates to respond, to evaluate, to evacuate. All pallet racking in Canada has to be welded by a facility complying to CSA W47.1. That is a code that's set in place by the Canadian Welding Bureau. Every pallet racking manufacturer that's qualified to manufacture rack in Canada is certified by the Canadian Welding Bureau. And it's really easy to check. You just go to their website and you can look up all the manufacturers, all the companies, in fact, globally that meet this welding standard. Finally, the other important consideration when you're comparing domestic steel versus imported steel or imported rack is the effect on the environment. Canada is a global leader and continues to strive to be to set a global standard for emissions and recycling and safe work environments. Now, you may not know, but the majority of domestic steel that is utilized in cars and bridges and buildings and all of these basic components, if they're finished their service life, they actually come back to the mill and are melted down and recycled. Not only are they recycled to continue to be used and avoid landfills, but it's also done in a manner which is in fact reduced emissions versus other steel mills that might be coal driven or otherwise. So according to the Canadian Steel Producers Association, production of steel in Canada for use in Canada results in over a 33% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions compared to steel that's produced overseas and then shipped globally via sea or rail to be used in Canada. I'm going to hand it over now. Next slide. Thank you very much.